we've got at least one more game to go. Before we get into it, let's go ahead and take a quick break for Macca's.
We don't believe in labels at Macca's, like dinner or breakfast, so we're getting rid of them. Now you can enjoy dinner or breakfast whenever you want it. McDonald's all-day menu, available 24/7.
Welcome back to the couch. Of course, I'm Spawn, joined by Aegium one more time. It is now 2-1 in Order's favour. They're just taking each other's maps, which doesn't make sense in League of Legends because you all play on the same map and they've all played the same side so far.
Yeah, it's also super rough for Mammoth right now. Of course, they're like match point, right? You lose this game, you're out of the Gauntlet, but they don't have choice. And I'm looking at this game being like, after like exactly what Rusty just said, like they need to change something. Something needs to be switched up. If they just get put on red side again, it's like they look pretty cemented in these Hecarim Kale bands. Like that, there's not a lot of wiggle room here. I feel like given what we've seen, and there needs to be some wiggling happening.
And now, Bryce, let me ask you. You've played on some very good teams. You've played with legendary players like Carbon, Radier, just to name a few. Who is the best player you've ever played with?
Radier.
Is it Radier?
In his prime?
Radier in his prime?
Radier in his prime was like the best player that OS has ever seen.
Followed by maybe Swiffer, you think, in his prime?
Potentially.
Is this
I haven't thought about the second place.
Is this the worst best of series that Swiffer has ever played in his career?
That's a big one. I don't know. You and I both know that I have an awful memory of games.
Yes, you do.
I've
That's
played.
why I did this to you.
I'm
no
not,
prep
I don't
as well.
know. I don't know if that's the worst one, but that game sucked.
Well, game 2.
Like that's like 2 games in a row. Like he's had a hard roughie. Like the Silas in game number 2 didn't look that good. It wasn't awful, but that was a shocking Orianna game. He tried to make some like big plays, like the flash over the wall of Baron. Like King reads it, and he's like towards the side. Like he didn't hit like. You know what I mean? That was a rough game.
Sometimes when things aren't going your way, they're
Yeah.
just really not going your way. Doesn't have an Aegium to get his shockwave in there. Maybe it was you all along, mate. Let's start at the beginning of this game. Draft.
Yes.
So they go Zoe a little bit sooner this time around.
No, well, they also could take up the Kai'Sa, right? Like, so Kai'Sa goes up in priority, and it's not like counter-picking with the Zoe, but this was Order actually flexing the Scion, right? So, like, Mammoth have gone into this.
The Silas, you mean, not the Silas.
Sorry, the Silas, yes. Mammoth have gone into this, and we've been saying, like, the Silas is a big thing where they're constantly seeing. All of a sudden, Order switch it from, like, Silas mid and Zoe is the counter-pick, Ryze is the counter-pick, to Tally gets his hands on it. If your top counter-pick for Silas is Cho'Gath, first of all, like, I'm not an expert in the Silas-Cho'Gath matchup, but that didn't look good. It like Tally was up like 10-15 CS, resets, gets TP advantage like in the matchup, and then it's just like it's hilarious to me that Silas also just grows. So he's just like the biggest Silas in the world. And Tally just had, like, you look at the scoreboard and you see Dream, and I'm taking nothing away from Dream. He's probably having, like, the series of his career right now. But Tally, super underrated that game. He like, hard carried that game.
He was 1v3ing most team fights.
Yes.
And killing people.
He was doing so much work in, like, reducing the only member that did consistent damage in the team fight on Mammoth in King. Multiple times, and he's literally solo killing him with a Nami peel, and, like, Jarvan's, like, whacking him on the head with his... with his spear.
And this game, I actually want to credit Mammoth because they got experimental. They cut the split push crap out. They started grouping around Baron. They tried a team fight where they tried to peel King. Tally still dove in, killed everyone. Next team fight, Babip dives into the backline, tries to bring Tally back. Tally still killed everyone. But I feel like as far as the grindy games we've seen so far, Mammoth actually showed a lot more creativity for my mind in how they were approaching these team fights.
Because a lot of the early stuff happened around triple as well. Like that Zoe into the Silas, like that was a good matchup, and he was abusing windows very well. Like they blow Swiffer's flash, and then like he's landing a bubble, so Babbitt just walks in, EQ, easiest Jarvan gank of his life, and then Zoe has so much threat. For a team that is ahead that gets to deny vision, both of these comps had that guy. If Order are ahead and have pink wards, you see Spooks is just sitting there charging up Zach E. He has like the pick of the litter when it comes to who he wants to engage on. Zoe did exactly the same thing. And it took Tally like rotating from the opposite side lane and looking to pick on the Zoe, where I think like Triple pushed out the top wave, was like resetting. They get that first catch that really opens it up. But like Triple was getting to a point where he was going to be problematic. Right? But then, unfortunately, like it's a couple of picks. He goes from like a 2-0 to like a 2-2 Zoe. Then you get to like team fight phase, and Zoe's damage is very like, she's in and out.
It hits or it doesn't.
It's not consistent. And when you're like trying to go through a Zac, a Silas, that becomes difficult. And King really did become like the one-man army. And that is just hard to play when Tyler's just hitting you in the head.
And now I want to talk about probably the most unsung member of Order the whole year. When he was playing well, Order were winning games. When he wasn't playing well, they started to lose. I think Jake, right now, people would be pointing at Dream. Jake seems to have wrestled the support champion pool away from what Destiny wants to play and into his wheelhouse.
Yeah.
He plays the Enchanter supports even when he plays them when they're not cool, if you want to say it that way, right? What have you made of his performance so far? Because Order obviously went from having FBI and Rogue and losing out in the only best of fives that they played last year. Now with Jake and Dream, everyone I think would argue would downgrade across the board, but they are the two members right now that seem to be holding strong, and Jake as much I think as anyone on the team.
I think this is this may be surprising, and I'm kind of surprised saying it, but especially given current year form with FBI and Rogue, I think it is a downgrade on paper. You look at both of those players, FBI to Dream and then Rogue to Jake. You're like, individually, like the other players were better, but they're actually a more cohesive duo. They have better synergy. These two guys, I feel like in Dream and Jake, like they're by no means like the best bottom lane in the OPL. But the OPL has good AD carries and good supports, doesn't have a lot of good duo lanes, and they are a pretty damn good duo. And that means a lot. And that is impressive for me. For like such a young guy, like working with Jake. Jake's like a big like father, like leader figure from what I see on the outside. And it makes a lot of sense that like Dream sort of thrives in an environment with that sort of figure, like being brand new to the league. But yeah, like they've just looked pretty consistent. Like coming into today, like I said it earlier, if Dream and Jake are beating King and Destiny, which this game I don't think necessarily like they were like beating them in the early game. Like a few bindings later, they don't
teleport play bottom lane.
Yeah, it really like boomed the matchup. It was external factors, but like they're playing fine. But I didn't expect it to be even matchups. I expected the edge to be on Mammoth's side for the bottom side of the map, and this series just hasn't really panned out that way at all.
And I haven't heard what side the teams are going to play on hint producers. However, going into this next matchup, if you were going to guess, Order's selection, where do they take?
Order would take blue. I think like now that they're match point, they don't have to change anything.
Maybe we'll be drum rolling for a while.
Order have chosen blue.
Order have chosen blue.
You did not. Okay, so this could. Oh my god! If this is, I'm gonna like, as someone with experience in a best of 5, I'm going to tell you if Mammoth lose this game playing Jarvan Kai'Sa, like those two players individually
their whole life.
are going to be so sad.
Yeah.
Right? Like losing a best of 5 playing only a single champion sucks. Right? Like this is exactly
what is the worst champion? Like all jokes aside, if you're gonna lose a best of 5 playing one,
Lulu. Okay, we'll move on. Shut the hell up. None of that. But no, I think this is very important. I literally said it. Like Mammoth need to do some wiggling, and they don't have wiggle room on this side. I'm expecting coming into this. I think.
Do they let Hecarim or?
I think they let Hecarim. I think Kayle, you take it off. Like Kayle is the weird enough one where I look at Topu and I'm like, this guy probably does not want to play Kayle at all. I look at Tally, I'm like,
do you give Tally an ignite early game top laner?
If he gets a Kayle game, he's laughing. Like he's very happy about that. And I think Heck is the droppable ban.
Okay.
And I think you take away Silas, you take away Rakan, you stick with the Kayle. That changes things up a little bit because I think at this point, if their only answer to the Silas top is Cho'Gath, it's not good enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the flip side,
the
Order just keep doing what they're doing. They banned the same 3 champions. They picked very similarly.
They're going to do the same thing. Like, absolutely. If Silas is up, they're going to first pick Silas, and then like if it is a Jarvan Kai'Sa, they can just play the Morgana again. Like this is a blind pick Morgana into a bad lane. Like Nami beats you in lane, and like they looked fine. He's happy to just take like an enchanter. Just be an enchanter. He just gets to like play standard League of Legends, and like I think the onus is definitely on Mammoth to have to be the ones to change here. They have the pressure.
Okay, and if you're going to look at a player on Mammoth, they've got some big names. Babip has been to a final. Triple has been to multiple and won finals. King and Destiny at one point were the best bottom lane in the OPL when they were playing aggressive League of Legends.
Yeah.
Topoon, the rookie, I feel like can be excused from the conversation. He just needs to do his job and hold James down, which I think he's done well so far this series. Who needs to step up in your eyes? Who will take the game by the scruff of its neck?
I think, like, I want it to be Babip. Like, I want him to be playing something other than blind pick Jarvan. I think Mammoth have looked at their best. Like, when you take a look at their players, I think Triple is very consistent. He gets pentakills. Like, he will win you a game, as will King, once you get to 40 minutes.
As he did game 2. Triple's already won them.
Yeah,
the game.
and it doesn't. I don't think like they have to do something early. I just want to see them drop jungle, like make Spooks blind pick. They have the red side. Get a different matchup rather than just like putting him like because this is old Babbitt when you compare like.
Yeah, I want to see Kindred Lee Sin Babbitt come back.
Yeah, like when you used to see like Nidalee Kindred Babbitt, and then like the tank of the meta at the time was like Sejuani. And you see Sejuani, and it's like okay, like I'm underwhelmed. Like he's not bad at Sejuani, but I feel like he could be opened up to do so much more. I feel exactly the same way about this. There are cool champions that he can play right now. If Spooks is going to take an Urgot, like play the Kindred, play something like that. Just I don't want to see blind pick Jarvan again with like another slow early game. I want to see something happen.
All right, we'll see whether they're able to do it. We are ready to go into potentially the decider game of this series. It's going to be Order versus Mammoth. Game 4 with your casters, Pyro and Rusty.
You absolutely called it, Jake. This is going to be match point right now in this series. Order have the momentum, Rusty, and I think with the ban shift up that they're suggesting, that seems like the best shot for Mammoth.
Yeah, I agree, but there's also the possibility to flex the Jarvan. So I do think that you could come into a game like this, still go for the Jarvan in your first rotation and actually flex that one to top lane to give Babbitt the counter pick as well is always a possibility.
Right.
Bryce, before you go as well, can you turn up the air conditioning? I am absolutely a Mentos ad right now. This is... Oh,
Nice and chilly.
it's just cold. It's real cold.
Well, it definitely is. We got that AC nice and cool here. It's to keep all that heat out from the player room because it's just emanating. We're into picks and bans here, the McDonald's champion selection. And so far, Rusty, the bans look exactly the same.
Yeah, they probably should. Order have no real reason to change them. Illusion the Thresh will be very, very swiftly taken off the board. The question for Mammoth's side with the Kale already banned is mostly answered. What will they change? Well, it's not the Kale. The Hecarim should very quickly follow.
It does follow through. And yeah,
And it has to be Rakan third.
You've
Like,
gotta
it
think.
has to be. Unless they want to pick Xayah Rakan first rotation themselves on red side. And just completely throw the plan out the window and say, "Look, we are just the best at this. We shouldn't let them have it."
Yeah, well, they do ban the Xayah this time, so they take away the other half of the combo.
Yeah, that
Say,
means
Jake,
they're
you can
doing a
go ahead and have
Galio
the
Rakan combo here, I have a feeling. We'll see what Order go with the first pick, because Silas is up. You have to lock that one away. You don't want to give
Tally
that
had
over.
a great pick, too, so I think this really lends a lot of credence back to the whole, oh, we can actually flex it if we want, because we've had one good performance on both. And then an okay performance.
To be honest, I don't know if there's any other team that would be very confident in giving a Silas away. So whether it's because Mammoth are playing as Order specifically, or Mammoth just are too confident against the Silas, it has to be banned. Every team in the world will ban that on red side if they can.
Yeah, Mammoth going back to game 1 strats and picking up the Rise as a first pickup, and let's see what they follow up
Rise
with here.
Jarvan's still likely. You can still look for the flex if you go for a Galio instead, maybe. But Rise Jarvan is just best because it's two flexible champions, as
Take the
they've just
Braum,
said.
okay.
Never mind.
Yeah, so, I mean, this gives an option for Spooks to pick up the J4, take it away if he wants.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, Pyro, but Braum is the counter to Xayah,
Which they banned.
and Rakan is good into Braum.
So the logic is not adding up to me.
I'm doing circles in my head right now trying to suss this one out.
This, this could be Mammoth kind of feeling a little bit of pain here, backs against the wall in the 2-in-1 series and maybe making some stranger decisions. The Morgana comes in for Jake once more.
Why not? It's Jake's champion.
It's
How many
working.
times are we going to say that he's good at it before we see a bad game from him?
Yeah.
Yet to be seen.
Yeah, and honestly, it's been all in the spells that he was tossing out that weren't his ultimate. I mean, we saw so many clutch bindings, so many Zoe bubble denials through the Black
I wonder
Shield.
if they'll go the Ezreal or the Kai'Sa themselves, perhaps. Oh, that is a possibility.
Oh, you talk about the gauntlet being thrown. Dreep says, gimme Vayne.
The scary thing here for Order is that Mammoth have got champions into the Vayne pick that you would have to imagine are available. One that comes to mind is Jinx. We've seen globally Cogmore as a response as well to the likes of the Vayne. And because you have a Braum next,
It's Space Vayne.
All right.
Okay, so
I just want to
get the
have
same
fun
matchup
in
for
draft, okay?
I mean, I appreciate you trying to predict some interesting stuff, but Mammoth are clearly creatures of habit, it would appear. And we enter ban phase 2. What do you want to see now from the Order lineup to round things out?
Yeah, let's speak about Order. Mammoth are predictable. Let's have a look. Mid lane bans, you could actually probably get rid of the Zoe unless you want to pick the Zac yourself. I do think that Zac could be a pretty good option, but because it's banned, mid lane bans are always a possibility.
No longer a choice there.
Zoe's very annoying if you want to put the Silas in mid lane.
That's true.
But I feel like you should probably keep it with Tally at this point. He's just too good on the champion in that last game. Too much confidence surely coming from him right now to put that mid instead.
Yeah, so they stick to the Aurelia ban. Remember last time they did the Darius as well, and Silas did end up going to the top side. So maybe that's what they do here once more. Still some time on the board.
Would make sense to me.
Mammoth have 15 seconds to respond.
Perhaps another jungler taken off like a Sejuani, but with the Aurelia already gone from Order, I would say that is less likely on their side.
They banned the Jarvan themselves. Okay. Let's back on Order side.
Two
Once more. Do we
junglers from
see more
Spooks.
top
Maybe
players?
trying to put Spooks on something like the Lee Sin again, where he was a little bit out of sorts.
I mean, Spooks has a big champion pool, right? Like, you look down the line, and he can definitely pick a lot of champions that can do early game stuff, that can scale it up into late. I think they've still got a lot of options on the Order side. There's the Darius ban, so that should be the giveaway that they intend to put Tally top.
Yeah, and remember for Spooks, there are still champions. Like, depending on the composition that Order want, there's something like the Elise is definitely still available.
That's
You
always
can
in the
run a
back of my
pick
mind with
composition.
Spooks.
Morgana Elise is always going to be strong with Zac and Jarvan gone. Just not as committal, but you've got a Vayne, so you probably don't go pick composition as your primary function.
Ooh, Nocturne was left up. That's a big pickup for Babip. He can turn the lights out, and that's going to make it a lot harder for Order to force fights.
Yeah, this is a very big deal. It actually does make life so hard if you're fighting not in an open space. Because not in open spaces means that Morgana can't put a black shield on someone like Dream, and he has a much more difficult time actually surviving those. So this is a risky choice of the Nocturne, but I really do like it for side lane pressure primarily. And a lot of that will be like Ryze Nocturne. So maybe Topper and Babip trying to carry this game out themselves.
Maybe they will. On the Order side, for Swiffer, he gets the lock-in of the Syndra, so we do know 100% that Tally will be the one piloting the Silas. And well, you mentioned earlier that the Sejuani's another pickup with the Zac taken away for setting up on these team fights. It would make a lot of sense for Order to lock it in, and they do.
The question for me here is, what do you play into the Syndra? Because there's obvious answers like the Lissandra that hasn't been banned in this game, but Syndra wins that matchup. It's about jungle pressure. The other answer is something that can control it very well, and this is actually one of Triple's pocket picks.
Ooh, and that's the LeBlanc, though, that comes in at the last second. They switch it around. So LeBlanc for Triple, and he has piloted this champion a handful of times. Some mixed success, if I recall correctly.
But the thing that LeBlanc does super well in here, and why it's almost akin to the Lissandra, is that it's really good gank setup. Like, you have now provided the entry tool for a Nocturne ultimate, and that is something similar to what you have on the top side of the map with the Ryze. So whenever you hit the Rune Prison, whenever you hit the chains, Nocturne follows through, and it actually almost always guarantees the kill. So you'll see the cleanse forced by Swiffer. The fact that he doesn't have Ignite removes a lot of kill threat in that 1v1. It actually does make life a bit more difficult for him in lane. And so Mammoth, they have changed the draft. The Gauntlet definitely been thrown by these guys. They're wanting to be much more aggressive through their laning phase, but also assassination, side lane control. That's what the game is going to be about. They want to tear Order apart, pull them side to side, and piece by piece dismantle them.
And they had to do it because backs against the wall, you lose this game and you are out of playoff contention. There will be no more Gauntlet games for you. So you might as well chuck it at Order's face. And it is match point for Order, 2-1 up in this series. Will this composition they've drafted be enough to get them over the line and take the win 3-1, or are we going the distance? Well, we're about to find out.
And it suddenly makes a lot more sense to me, Pyro, that the Zarya was taken away over the Rakan if your goal is to pick a Nocturne, something that was almost undetected by the side of Order until the fourth pick in this draft phase. All the jungle bans, all the focus that went there from Mammoth, but never even a point of consideration from Order.
Not at all. So, Mammoth, one last chance to make this happen, and some very powerful picks. And you've got a lot of options, so you can still get some side lane pressure in the form of Tapoon's Ryze, King staying on the comfort pick, Destiny doing the same thing. But I'm definitely keeping my eye on Babip and Triple in the mid lane. Once level 6 hits, we'll expect someone to flick the light switch.
I just want spice. Last game was very reserved, and credit to the teams for playing it out as best they could in those situations. It was a delicate balance between winning and losing team fights. Zac engages versus Zoe Poke was the name of the game. But in this fourth game of the best of 5 series, there is just damage coming out everywhere. And it's not really in the form of siege by any means. In fact, most of it is about chunking people's health bars out, getting Poke. And so much of this game then comes down to vision control, lane priority, and then team fighting.
Tally, ooh, starts off on Babip, misses on the
close.
chains. That would have been a start to it. So level 1 shenanigans still in the playbook here for Order. In fact, all 5 members waiting in this river.
They're still hunting for Babip. They're just going to do it again.
Yep. He walks over, face checks into him. Babbitt might be forced to flash here.
He's dead.
He's got to use it. He's still chasing. Topoon's around. That's a great start, though, Order. You know, now this can set up for, I think, some really big counter jungling. Maybe Babbitt's going to be set behind.
Like, they are counter jungling right now. You can see Topoon's coming over to maybe assist. They've just warded the red buff over the Krug wall. But Spooks and Tally are waiting. I don't think they don't have a ward themselves, though, surely. No, they don't. So they're just going to late invade blind.
And they're going to be spotted. There is a ward now. Babbitt pulls apart. Rune Prison onto Spooks. This is an interesting start to this game for sure. And Babbitt walks away from his red buff.
Yeah, just concedes immediately. No hesitation. Of course, on the opposite side, Destiny trying to slow them down as they were looking towards the other red buff. And that's exactly where Babbitt is legitimately sprinting to as fast as he can. So now all eyes are on Spooks. Where does he go from here? Because he's got the red buff. The steal is successful. And Babbitt has just invaded you. Handshake forced almost by Order.
Now, Order know that this is happening, of course. They are going to send Jake up to put a ward down in that brush and see Babbitt on the end of it. Dark Binding doesn't connect. Doesn't really matter too much.
Force the smite was probably the end goal here from Jake.
Yeah, I know he will, actually. This is some good harassment from Jake.
Spell shield leveled, so there's no oh, God.
Ooh, he almost got him as the spell shield went away.
But that's a lot of time spent by Jake, and I'm really not sure about that extra time put there. King and Destiny, level advantage. Jake now going to stay a little bit behind for quite a while. Does actually add to some concerns where, you know, the harass from Mammoth, they immediately went back to lane once they conceded. They still got the full experience for it, and they are going to be still okay in the end. Scuttle's still going to be secured. So vertical jungling forced. Just a lot of time spent by Jake there to try and get damage onto someone who doesn't really feel it. He's a Nocturne after all.
Just a gigantic spooky ghost. As, once again, jungling continues to be that way. For a little while, we won't really matter since we're waiting on level 6s in terms of ganking opportunities on both sides of the jungle.
Yeah, and that is actually the end goal of what they were trying to do there, Jake, is slow him down. You know, if you force the smite, you actually do slow the take of single camps from him. So, like, the blue buff might be slower. If he goes for a Gromp, that'll be slower instead. As he is walking through mid to soak some experience because he wants to go get those Raptors.
Ah, the soft tax. Spooks is on the Raptors himself. Meanwhile, he gets that smite down. Let's see if we can clear him away. Actually, with the red buff on both sides, this could be a fight over it. Swiffer comes out of nowhere, but Babbitt actually makes up a lot of that XP.
Yeah, he stole 2 minions worth of experience in the middle lane, so he's able to get level 3 from those, which is smart coming out of the mid lane, the jungler rather, of Mammoth, because he's going to contest that camp at level 3. Yeah. But no complaints really coming out of the start of this game. Just trying to force things Order and responding pretty calmly, honestly, are their opponents.
Yeah, ooh, Swiffer taking a little bit low here and still able to walk away from it pretty well. But I think when you talk about like smart responses from the Mammoth jungler, you know, Babbitt is definitely one of those guys that has a lot of the experience, right? I believe it's still his second year in the OPL, but he clearly made a name for himself last time around.
He also spent a full year under the wings of a OPL jungler in Carbon at the time. So
that's true. I mean, that's a pretty big mentor for sure.
To be able to be in the league for what was 2 years, but also sit behind one of the veterans for a year before that, you do get a lot of information. You learn a lot. So accelerated his time in the league, of course, and one of the few players that comes in as a rookie but actually had that history behind it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how you get yourself into such a strong position with last year's Chiefs lineup. And, well, now looking pretty solid in this game, in this series, even though Mammoth are one game away from losing it all and dropping into the 5th place position in this split. They definitely have a chance, a fighting chance indeed.
And just how calm Summoners Rift really feels through the start of this game. We all know we're waiting for the level
It was such
6.
a tense start, though.
It was.
Oh, man, and then just became
but the
chill.
ambience is noteworthy. The sounds of League of Legends are actually quite loud right now.
Someone's going to make like an ASMR YouTube video that's just League farming sounds. I'm sure it probably already exists.
Probably does.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking to myself what sounds are actually therapeutic to hear. There's not a lot of them in my head that I would want to hear.
The pings are definitely not relaxing.
Pings are gross.
Like, okay, that,
Yeah,
the blue trinket pop, that's pretty relaxing. Or the Scryer's Bloom. Ooh,
hello.
Run headlong into each other. Babbitt was sniffing for a fight.
Babbitt wants the Scuttle Crab. Spooks definitely wants it himself, but didn't expect Babbitt to be there for some reason, and he's now come over towards his protecting top, really. Don't think he's got any intent to gank it.
Yeah, it's level advantage there. Jake sniffing for the binding. They do actually nail onto King, but instantly cleanse it out, and they throw the shield wall up. It's just shields left and right, but
they're still
look at the
well
poke
in
damage.
control here. If another binding hits, the kill could truly be on.
Exhaust, they want to go for the kill, forcing the double flash from the Mammoth bot lane. Man, I just love watching Order's duo work in this series.
There is one thing that you'll always want to watch in League of Legends, and that is Jake when he plays Morgana throwing down those bindings. But when they have got control, they do look commanding, Order, especially through that 2v2. And another good start to them. Yes, they're down a couple of CS, but they match it. Now they force their opponents back. And they are once again stepping up to the plate in this series and doing incredible work.
And they're doing it against King and Destiny, two of the strongest and most storied bottom laners in the OPL. I mean, it's a region that's chock full of talent, to be sure, but those are names that you're well aware of. They're household names here. Another binding is going to land, and with the minion aggro, they're chunking out Destiny. He's got a heal, and he's forced to use it.
He tried to hold the wave. That's very greedy, actually, coming out of Destiny with no vision of the Morgana and just a Vayne next to 8 minions hitting you.
Oh, the Manor Laugh.
The fact that he had to use his healing that trade is disastrous, though he is a Braum with Unsealed Spellbook, so he'll be able to use another Summoner spell sooner or later. That isn't nice to have to use it. Not at all. Not after you just use your flash, because you could have replaced that with another Summoner spell.
Yeah.
Now you've got 2 gone.
Still very even in this game. Babbitt picks himself up that red buff, and we check in with the mid. There's always kill threat after LeBlanc gets to a certain point in the game. Swiffer playing back, very respectful in this. Keeping up in the CS game, but he picks up the boots early too, so it's not like he's going to have a huge amount of big damage here. Spooks is taken pretty low by that red on his own side, but
It doesn't have smite, so
Does
he is
not.
playing a delicate dance with this red buff. He should be able to get it. Yeah, he's all good.
There we go. Getting that permafrost on. But yeah, so far Dream doing a great job up against King, and we will see which Vayne reigns supreme, the Space Vayne or the Land Vayne.
Well, they both look like Space Vayne, honestly, in this one.
That's the skin, yeah.
It's hard to say, of course. Both team fight very differently when it comes to late game. One wants to dive into the backline, the other one wants to tumble there. And is notorious for
Is that
Vayne
so
spotting.
different?
Yeah, because one's a giant dash that covers an entire team fight. The other
Yeah.
one's a small tumble that can't go over walls.
Also, you've got like rockets and missiles versus bolts. You'd think if this was like Civ or something, I know who I'm putting in front, but definitely not the case. They do an equivalent amount of damage, it would appear.
One of them shreds tanks significantly faster as well, though, and that's the other thing. You know, Dream, with his build, is kind of designed to tank shred as Vayne, but even though there aren't many tanks in this game, Bruisers still cop it well and truly. And Nocturne is going to be one of those champions that, I mean, realistically, if we hit late game, if Nocturne is ulting and he doesn't have a Zhonya's or a Stopwatch or a Guardian
He's in
Angel,
trouble.
don't know why I said Zhonya's, but I went through the other ones, he's probably going to die for his troubles. So a lot of it is about just using his ultimate in late game, because the Vayne will kill him unless he's got the team to follow with him. So that's where it gets really challenging. It's top in.
Here we go. Oh, steps out, immediately tosses the Bulla on, and, well, Babbitt flips the lights out as Tapoon flashes away. They're going to try to turn this one around, but look at the damage they're dealing, and they even get the permafrost onto Babbitt as well, and they just changed target priority, and he flashes away. That's a big win for Order.
Yeah, that's fantastic from Order. A lot of summoner spells now having to be used. Swiffer now moving up to the area, and Tally and Spooks have stayed. Tolpoon doesn't have ult. He is in a whole lot of trouble if they collapse onto him, which they may with Swiffer.
Triple's coming up as well, though. This is technically a 3v3, but those health bars are not looking so hot on the Mammoth side. Order going to just get a bit more chip damage on turrets, and that'll be the end of it. But, man, that was so close to first blood.
Babbitt in an epic battle with Krugs right now, I might add. He's very lucky to be alive because they were one hit off killing him. So this game has gotten very tense in a whole lot of ways. We just saw Spooks almost dying, wrestling for red buff. But it's just so difficult. They're trying to get the maximum at every possible moment, but they are still being punished. And Order are the ones that are getting the better punishes on health bars, on summoner spells. The challenge here comes to, can they turn summoner spell advantages into actual gold values, such as the kills?
Because right now there's not a lot. There's about 300 gold separating these two teams at 10 minutes. No first bloods. You look at where the gold is stacked up right now, and most of it is in Tally.
And that's honestly not a big surprise. Raya is one of those champions that stacks up eventually to be really strong and just hold you down. But at the start of the game, it's really hard to deal with an Aftershock Silas full stop. Doesn't matter what champion you are. Especially as someone like Rise who scales, that really is an early game challenge. So gold difference, not a big shock in top lane. It's something that starts to shift over time. Mid lane is a very similar thing. Syndra going for the cleanse does actually fall a little bit behind as... Hang on a second.
And Triple's able to walk away with that, though. And that's an interesting strategy. Dream and Jake steal away the blue buff.
Well, you don't expect that, do you?
Nah, not really. Usually it's the jungle in the mid, not the dual laner.
With how unexpected that is, it was successful.
It worked out.
Of course, Nocturne was resetting off a push in top side as well, so everything just goes back to normal, except that Dream keeps a blue. They lost a little bit of health for that as well.
Nah, I don't think he'll mind
No
too much.
complaints.
So, continues to be a push back and forth. Slight gold lead, still in favor of Order, about 500. That's it.
Getting close to first item spikes for bot lane.
Still no first blood, though.
No.
And you think, like, after post 6, BABIP would want to be popping on the paranoia.
Well,
he
his
used
first
defensively.
yeah, it was defensive. It was to save his top laner. And, you know, usually as a Nocturne, you'd say that's not a success. And that does actually buy a lot of time for your opponents. Now, the ult is available again, but his flash isn't. So going for those plays a little bit harder. His Destiny doesn't have Demolish because he's gone for Spellbook. I just expected Demolish.
But as it stands, they do manage to pick up 2 turret plays, and that helps them turn the gold in their favor. In fact, they now got the lead. It looks like they're going for another dive up top, though. Tapoon does not see it coming. No flash available for the Rise. Spooks waits in the wings. He had a point-blank ult last time around. He actually doesn't pull the trigger on it.
No, they see the Nocturne coming, so actually their attentions have turned a bit.
Much more valuable. Just waiting and baiting. He dashes. And he throws out that flail there, gets the smite on blue. The stun is on, and so is the red buff. And oh, he walks away from the Scout of the Week. That was close. They'll have to settle for a red steal instead.
They're very close, however. They'll take the red buff. That's a pretty nice little take. Rise is also sniping away some Krugs, so Spooks cannot. And so really, it's just a red buff. It's another thing denied from BABIP. However, in the scope of things, BABIP still has a level advantage and has got extra creeps over his respective jungle opponent. So this could be worse, but they've taken the blue buff now. They've taken the red buff. They are really putting the pressure on BABIP. They are trying to force him into making plays almost out of desperation. And now they've actually forced the Herald, so they're going for the first proactive movement themselves.
Yeah,
Mammoth
BABIP
know
knows
this,
this, though. Let's see if they can actually stop it. That's the question.
They can do this
Peeling away, Tally and Spooks.
Well, soloing a Rift Herald still hurts.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, little old Spooks.
Meanwhile, though, Dream getting some free farm down to the bot as he will meet up with King. And ooh, he steps forward. There's that tumble just outside of tower range. Got to be careful, though.
The question's always going to be who wins these trades, and realistically, both of them come out better for it if they just trade in one bursts. King wants to hit more passive auto attacks to get his passive proc off, whereas it's just 3 for Dream, so usually the Vayne is in a pretty comfortable position.
So, Tally moving on to Tapoon. We were on the subject a little earlier of sounds that you would want to hear, soothing sounds. I actually think Tally's attack animations on the Sylas, the change is very, very satisfying.
I'll need to pay more attention to it in the future.
That's kind of nice.
Definitely not Syndra's Q.
No, that one, especially not like the watery ball one.
Definitely not Nocturne's ultimate.
Definitely not popping honey fruit.
You don't reckon?
Nah, it just sounds like you're stepping on it. Stepping on it gives you health.
Yeah. But it's attributed to something that you like.
I mean, yeah, but it just sounds nasty.
Fair enough.
Look, you just don't want to be stepping on fruit. I used to work at like a smoothie shop when I was a teenager, and I stepped on a lot of fruit, and it was really gross. All the time. Because it would just fall onto the floor.
Unless the smoothie shop was a winery, I'm rather confused still.
Okay, so we would have these like big giant tubs of like all the different fruit, like mangoes and peaches and things like that.
Okay,
We'd always move them,
more
and
important
things would just fall onto the ground.
Were you stepping on them en masse, or did you not have shoes on? Because
No.
it still sounds fine to me.
I had shoes on, big like non-slip shoes, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
occasionally a bit of fruit would just get knocked out of something, or the blender would overfill, and then it would get on. I'll tell you in a minute, because there's another darkness turned on here. As they look for Tapoon, the mid darkness, though, did not result in a kill, and they're still chasing the Rise for nothing. So that was a bit anticlimactic.
But what happened?
I don't know. Triple's going in again. Misses onto Jake. All right. I'm going to talk about smoothies again.
BABIP didn't use anything, actually, so as Stopwatch still has Flash, just use the ultimate. They're going to go over to the Dragon. Slipper didn't use anything. Triple.
Yeah.
How did a Nocturne ult?
Spooks is yelling. What's going on? There's another fight in the mid lane. Now Triple is going to go down to first blood. 15 minutes into this game. There's a Dragon trade, but Order are already on top of the mid turret.
Jesus.
This game just blew wide open.
They're looking mid, but they can't really do anything.
Can they? That's the question.
Not going to go down. And it was Dream that gets the first blood, and now they're moving towards mid. Spooks gets the Herald, so the trade has been there.
He wants to set this up. There's still no triple. He's going to go for it right now, and they see this on the Mammoth side, but they can't do anything about it. So this is going to be first brick as well as first blood over to Order. They're just going to let Shelly do her thing.
Maybe solo gold if they could to Dream, but it's going to be shared with everyone anyway because they all dealt relevant damage to the turret. So another tower taken. Order have put themselves in the lead pretty handily right now. Another turret actually top lane because Topoon was holding mid.
All right, so that's a big swing in favor of Order. They now have themselves 2,000 ahead, and they can go back home, spend some of that gold. But there was just a lot of things that unfolded for what seemed like nothing in the last moments, and then it just turned into a big Order.
It was just really hard to know what exactly happened in the middle lane and how that affects everything
Hopefully we
that
get
followed.
that replay. Yeah.
We get to see everything that followed, right? We know that there was no summoners used from anybody through that dive, but still triple dies. And used his flash afterwards. So it's really disorienting.
Very confusing. Still, though, Order have opened up the map a little bit more here on two fronts. They'll be looking for the bottom. King and Destiny are actually waiting in a brush.
Well, they don't really want to walk up into the lane just yet.
Now, there we go.
But mid lane and jungler are missing from the side of Order as far as Mammoth are concerned. They are about to show themselves in River.
Here we
get to see what happens in mid.
Okay, so Triple just wanted to get the assist on the kill.
He doesn't even use... Oh,
Oh,
my God.
and another fight. Darkness once again. There's already Swiffer taking out Triple, and he will get equalized. Or rather, it's Spooks that does, which means Swiffer can still chase down the Nocturne looking for damage. The Scout of the Week comes through. Does he have enough to finish him off? Looks like it as he's trying to speed away. The flash
he
forward,
dodged it.
auto attack, a second, a third is all he's going to need right now.
Oh.
But can he close the distance? He's forced to turn around because Tapoon's there. Babip limps away.
He's on the hunt, though. Swiffer will... Oh, he just dodges vision. Babip has one hit. Silas
He could
was
get
roaming.
an execute or sneak a back.
He's going to look for the execute.
Just enough time. That's all he needs.
There you go.
He gets it.
Just barely. Babip's able to execute himself. Nobody gets the experience for being in the area either. You have to take those if you're Mammoth. They're still 2,000 gold behind, however, because Triple gets 1v1'd by Swiffer on the Syndra. Nocturne ult just comes in to hit it home.
Yeah, it does. Whoa, Dream that damage all the way through the Braum shield. Not so unbreakable now with the Silver Bolts. Now
Not
Triple's
again.
coming back down. He is hunting constantly. Despite being 0 and 2 down, he's not giving up a tick.
Heads back to mid lane, though. Now 0-2 having a rough time. Meanwhile, top
Speaking
lane.
of rough times. Tally, maybe getting turned on there. Still, some serious damage out of that Silas. Rod of Ages stacking up Oblivion Orb in his pocket.
2 items is honestly a pretty good break point for the Rise, though, if he goes Morello's as his second item of choice.
Yeah, and he's not in behind. Now, Order and Jake are going to be able to combo up and take down the last of the towers in the outer, and Mammoth haven't gotten a single one this game.
A very, very crucial point now for Mammoth in their playoff run. If they make another mistake, if Order capitalize and make something good happen themselves, this game can snowball out of control.
And this series can end. Order are on match point right now. Mammoth, even if they take the win here, they'd have to do it again to guarantee themselves a spot in tomorrow's match.
Everything in this game rests on what Mammoth do in their next moments, however, with Baron up in 30 seconds. With the map at a state that is a pretty big disadvantage, honestly, for them. Bot lane, while it was 30 CS in the lead of King, and they've been playing okay, Summoner spells were still forced down there, and the kill that went over to Dream equalizes that difference pretty well. They've got the Vayne that'll do so much relevant damage, and Mammoth can't really afford to dive their opponents, but they have a Nocturne. So whatever they do, they have to be super delicate with how they approach it.
Some pings flying for the Order members up top side. They're going to be moving into this jungle. Triple, however, is on the opposite side here. Very slippery on that LeBlanc.
Order have fantastic vision at the Baron.
Oh, they're wrapping right around. In fact, they might even catch King here. He steps up for the Krugs. They're waiting. And that's into the mid lane. Nocturne takes out Swiffer, but it's going to be an equalized kill immediately into the pocket of Dream.
Mammoth, while they get the kill onto Swiffer, they take that. Order still have all of the setup on the top side of the map. That is the area closest to Baron, and if they could use that successfully...
Tally steals a Paranoia. Oh boy.
I think 2 items is when they'll actually look at hitting the Baron itself. Dream, once he gets the Gunther's Rage Blade, will be well and truly online for DPS to the neutral objective.
Yeah, and Dream can just get a solo push on right now. There's nobody coming to try and stop this. However, you can see Tapoon is there on the bottom, and here was the play.
Yeah, that was just triple bursting him out.
Yeah.
Very easy. That was actually just coming in to secure that one for Babbitt.
Okay.
But 2-1, still feeling pretty good for himself. Like, this game is not over, and though I say that the next move and the onus belong to Mammoth, the game is still in a fairly even state. King has been having a fantastic series, so it's always possible that he steps up and carries his Tapoon.
Tapoon goes very far forward to try and secure that one, and once again the lights get turned out as Tally comes in. It's this time an Order one. And
Oh, they don't know
the
he's
stealth
there!
Back!
The
No
dark.
way!
How is that possible?
He stepped into the brush and they thought he'd realm warped.
But it was Tally that used the darkness.
Oh, they just baited themselves.
What happened?
A bit of disorder.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh man, that's gonna make the fun fail real somewhere.
What just happened?
Tally used his own darkness.
They thought
boy.
he got Rise ulted out. Oh, dear.
They did catch onto the Braum, though. Do they have enough damage to take down Destiny? He steps back. The chains were on, but he breaks them. And
King.
it doesn't matter. They turn their attention to King, a much juicier target, as he's forced to ult, flashing away, still taken down by Swiffer.
Teleports are in right now, Pyro. They are going to go for the Baron immediately.
And there's Triple sniffing around. However, Tally going to try and jump on top of him, tosses a couple of chains, but Triple walks away. Dark Binding, he has to dodge. And now the Baron well and truly started. Down to 9,000 health it goes. Meanwhile, Mammoth trying to trade onto a mid tower. Instead,
just
they've
letting it
given
go.
it up.
They've got bot lane being pushed. They've got mid lane being pushed. Mammoth are going to let the Baron slide to their opponents and trade it for 2 turrets instead. They do get gold, but that Baron could be the game-ending Baron.
It's huge for Order. However, Mammoth didn't walk away empty-handed. As you said, still managed to trade a little bit for themselves. But now, the next several minutes are all Order's tempo.
Unless they can get a pick in here. So we're
We're going to watch what the heck happened.
It was Tally's darkness, so keep that in mind. The Condemned, because he's in the wall.
They thought he was out.
Oh, that's nuts.
That is actually the greatest debate.
That's nuts. They actually thought he warped.
Okay,
No one thought to check.
Tapoon deserves a round of applause for that one.
Because they got condemned into it?
Eh.
No one thought to check the bush. Now they know.
Hey, just because you stumble into an Oscar doesn't mean you didn't earn it.
Does anyone stumble into Oscar?
I have no idea. I was trying to come up with something that sounded profound. Order's going to take another tower. That was hilarious.
Yeah, I can't believe that. It didn't change the game too crazy an amount.
But check the brush. Just let that be a lesson.
But now they know.
All right.
And this is the place, right? We just mentioned earlier in the game that when Tapoon gets a Morellos, he can 1v1 potentially Tally. It just prevents the healing from the Kingslayer on that W. And that is the biggest thing. You'll have shields. You'll have the ability to trade with your opponent. But if he ever got below 40% press W on you, you still lost the trade in the end. So now he actually has executable damage. And you can see that Nocturne is down here. This is the combination that we called for in Champion Select. It's the reason you picked the Nocturne into Silas when you have a Rise. But your opponents, they have Baron buff. Your opponents will be looking very aggressively, very forwards to try and win the game through this.
Swiffer's here as well, so it's
yeah, and they
actually
know
2v2.
something's up. If the Nocturne is missing off the map, they're going to hover, they're going to protect Tally.
Order playing very smart. Not just this game, this whole series.
No, that's brilliant, though, from Order. The ability to protect the one place that's weak, and now they bring everybody down there because that's the lane they want to focus. They set it up early, and they protect Tally so it doesn't actually stop the flow of the game.
Yeah, not to mention they do have another lane pushing as well. Spooks is the one holding down the fort up in that top side. And yeah, Mammoth just don't see anything else. They don't know this is happening with 4 members down 5.
But they've got top push, they've got mid, very aware that it is just a Baron buff on Spooks who is holding that wave. Spooks, of course, the lowest opportunity to die, lowest chance to die. They know that Order either reset and came onto the map bottom or they're just resetting still and trying to cheese us somewhere. So
yep. Now they show face. Spooks is going to join the crew. And this is going to be a tower. There's not much Mammoth can do to really stop it, but they can ready up to try and keep their base alive in the bottom.
Kai'Sa still needs to recall King with a little bit of time until he can get here.
All right, another Paranoia stolen by Tally. Oh, turning the lights out. Triple goes in. That's just a feint, though.
Does get the Guardian procced. It's always going to be nice for the forthcoming team fight for someone like Nocturne.
And
they are
this
going.
time it is going to be Tally's, and they turn their attention to go in once again. It's just going to be to break the base open. However, that vein damage
Babbitt.
is real. Swiffer's going to take down Babbitt, and King equalizes onto Dream as he gets into the back line. It's a little uncertain as Jake is going to fall now. Mammoth have a number advantage.
Mammoth win the fight, though it is barely. When both Nocturne ultimates are procced, no one can see anyone. And in that absolute chaos of that moment, it still looks like King's able to get into the fray, into the back line. Their Nocturne ultimate lasted just a couple seconds longer. I never thought I would be saying a sentence like this in League of Legends. But the difference was that Babip used his Nocturne ultimate second.
Just a tiny bit. And that, I feel like even if King hadn't been able to see, as long as he nails somebody with his W, he can go somewhere.
So aggressive from Babip with the abilities, with the components there for a Guardian Angel and 1100 gold in his pocket. He hasn't gone, GA, as we'll see this fight again. Tally going forwards. He starts it off, he's now at half health. And they go forwards, they go on to Dream. And of course, King getting into the back line, assassinating him with Babip is enough damage. And from this point, no Vayne, no opportunity to win the team fight. Tally was already chunked out.
Ah, that's critical right there. Good job by King to recognize the target.
Absolutely.
And in such a hectic situation, it's disorienting just to watch because, well, first off, you only expect the one Nocturne ultimate, but then it just goes blue to red. And you're wondering what the heck's happening.
You're really not sure, and all you can see on all 10 people is the caption nearsighted. Yeah. So you're really not sure at what moment what can happen, as Babip is actually in a lot of trouble potentially.
Yeah, but they don't have the follow-up, they don't have the chase quite yet. Still a lot of vision control by ORD
ult if they wanted to throw it. It's more that they were afraid of where Mammoth could be.
By the way, Nocturne ultimate on the list of not satisfying sounds to hear.
Not at all.
Seem to be a lot more of those.
And Babip also didn't go for the Guardian Angel. So to my point, he now completes Duskblade after that fight, but he had a stopwatch. He had a BF sword, so he had 2/3 of the component for Guardian Angel. Then went Serrated Dirk into Caulfield's Warhammer for Duskblade. He has changed his mind in this game. Stopwatch is enough for him because 900 gold with his current items will get a Guardian Angel, so he can back-to-back team fight with the items he has. His goal is to one-hit Dream. If he can ult and auto-attack Dream and at least get rid of half of his health, the rest of Mammoth can follow that through.
Right.
He is going to be a suicide champion. But he just needs to deal so much damage. If he can, then maybe they can win the fight.
Well, Dream's going to be watching his back. He's got a stopwatch of his own, and he just finishes his Phantom Dancer, so now matched on 3 items. The biggest difference now, King's got a pickaxe above him. And it's going to come down to this next Baron fight, Rusty. 15 seconds till it respawns. Babip inside some minions trying to hold on to a wave here. Spook steps forward. They're going to look for a chase. They get the blue smite down to the black shield to scatter the lead. They're going to take down Babip. He's going to have to pop that stopwatch, and he flashes away. The darkness gets turned on defensively. Baron's live.
Spooks throws the ultimate. I didn't see who it connected to because it doesn't seem like it was Babip as he flashes his way out to safety. Heal was used by Destiny. Flash, ultimate, and stopwatch was used by Babip. So this Nocturne is out of the fight. And it looks like ORD will just be able to get this, though they are starting to converge. They are starting to pressure.
Oh, that's a lot of damage though on a King. He's still staying alive with the shield. He steps forward, finally gets taken down, and the fight gets turned. This is going to be all order as they turn back to the Baron after the double kill for Dream.
And you can see the desperation from Mammoth. The fact that King just went in with 10 HP to his name to try and get some extra damage down shows how they're really feeling in this moment. It's not good.
And Mammoth have to trade on towers. They have to give up yet another Baron in this game. They cannot afford to drop a Nexus because then they're out of the Gauntlet.
Another turret does drop. They are still getting gold. The gold difference between these teams is only 3,000 with the second Baron of the game secured. And they are still in with a fighting chance, but Topoon cannot split push. He cannot 1v1 Silas anymore. He is no longer in a safe position to do so. And we'll get to see this once again as Swiffer just one-hits him. Uses the ultimate in that combo as well. And King ults in. Triple dashes forwards and just gets bound. They are so under the pump with pressure right now that they are getting forced errors made.
And this is when you start to see the nerves, the cracks start to show. Mammoth, we've seen this happen before. In many of their best-of-1 games, when they have had their losing streaks. We know they're an emotional team. We know the pressure can sometimes get to them despite being star players. ORD might just have it together, and they might have just punched their ticket to the next stage of play here in the Gauntlet.
And it takes a good team to catch a throw. That's the thing as well. You can't just say that Mammoth are throwing. ORD are playing very good League of Legends right now. The individuals in the bottom lane are stepping up huge in this Gauntlet game. Tally, when he has Silas, is unstoppable and his team fighting very well. And Swiffer, the one weak point of ORD, honestly, in this whole series, you could say he's close to the worst series he's had in his career. He has bounced back in this 4th game and is looking very good. So he's redeemed himself.
Certainly the case. Inhibitor going to Fallen. There's got to be smiles on the faces of the Order Army, the fans. This series has been redeeming for Order, who had such a rough ride into the Gauntlet. Picked it up towards the end, looked stronger, but still needed help. Needed help in the form of the Chiefs just to make it here.
Got the Nocturne ultimate, so they are going to start hunting. This inhibitor at the very least should drop. That blinding connects.
Triple still threatening. Spooks. He just dives right into the danger. King trying to turn him back. Still with the Baron buff, waiting for some minions. The inhibitor is going to drop. That's number 2 here for Order.
And Spooks having a fantastic set right now. Just playing tank for his team. As the meta shifts to enchanters in the support role, tanks need to be made up somewhere on the map. And he is going to be a large brunt of that burden. That was not English.
Well, he's a large bear, and he's bearing the brunt of something. The damage. Didn't have any more B rhymes.
You don't have to keep going with me. Just let me
Rusty,
sing.
I will follow you all the way down this rabbit hole.
Now, it's still only 3,000 gold the difference, though. Death caps are on. 3rd items on the way for the side of Mammoth. Babbitt needs to finish that Guardian Angel, though, as soon as he possibly can. Otherwise, he cannot get into the back lines.
Yeah. Mammoth could turn a fight. They can absolutely do it, but they need to win one if they want to have any chance of staying alive in the series.
I don't think you can until Nocturne has that Guardian Angel, and I don't know how much gold he is away from it, but if he is a single wave away, he should be calling for it. No, he can afford it.
Yeah, he should be backing right now and taking it. There's nothing for Order to get in the map, and Mammoth are actually going to face check them, or rather force it on. And here we go, Redemption coming through, but they've already decided to run away, and it's going to be Spooks chucking out that bullet. They take that Babbitt, and you better believe he's wishing he had that Guardian Angel, with King stepping up to the front line. Nobody there to protect him, and nobody from Order is dying here. Tally steps forward, gets the abscond on, looking for Tapoon, and Order have absolutely done it. They're moving forward.
The ticket is punched. Order now push forward. Super minions are here to hit it home. They should be able to take this game.
Only Destiny there to respond, and Destiny is not with Mammoth today, as Order absolutely step up to the plate and deliver. It is all going to be Nexus, and in 3 games, 1 loss, it didn't matter. They take it all the way, and they're going ahead tomorrow.
And what a performance from Order across the board. From start to finish, they stepped up in the Gauntlet. Dream said expect the best you've ever seen from him when the Gauntlet came around. He posted on social media, and you better believe we saw that coming out of him. Big hopes for this team now tomorrow.
No overstatement at all from Dream. He stood and he delivered every step of the way. What a great debut in the Gauntlet for the AD carry of Order.
You have to compliment them for their performance. Order played out of their minds, but at the same time, you cannot ignore what is a super team, or was a super team in Mammoth, now losing in 5th place in the Gauntlet. That's not something you would ever expect to say, not something you would ever expect to see.
I don't think we expected from the beginning of the split, though, Mammoth to be in that last spot in the Gauntlet. And yes, they weren't the last seed, but it didn't matter. It was just a side selection thing at the end of the day. And Mammoth, they were just slower to adapt, and they crumbled at the end.
Absolutely they were. And I mean, at the end of the day, there are things that you could look at in this set and say with some big hiccups through draft that definitely come back to bite them. They gave over the Xayah Rakan. Rakan immediately banned. In this last game, they choose to ban the Xayah, but they still just give over a really strong bottom lane to their opponents.
Yeah.
Like, that bottom lane didn't seem to be the champions that was played. It was the players themselves that were playing out of their minds. And at the end of this, it's devastating for Mammoth, who wanted to win this split. They didn't want to wait for split 2. They wanted to win split 1, now out in 5th.
They'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board, I think. And this whole split, really, there is definitely a lot to dissect for the Mammoth lineup. I think they will bounce back. They will bounce back strong. They're players that have been in many finals, that have won many championships. They have that caliber of play, but they just needed to get everything clicked into place, and it just didn't happen this time around.
Yeah, nothing ever really clicked for them. So split 2 is the place they're going to have to look for sure. They've identified their issues, I've no doubt, and you have to trust that the experience of the players and the coaching staff will get them where they need to be in the second split.
Right.
But for now, it's all about Order.
Yes, indeed. Well, before we send it back to the couch to break down that 3-1 win by Order, let's go ahead and take one more quick Macca's break.
We don't believe in labels at Macca's, like dinner or breakfast, so we're getting rid of them. Now you can enjoy dinner or breakfast whenever you want it. McDonald's all-day menu, available 24/7.
And that is it with that. It is a 3-1 victory for the boys from Melbourne in Order. Want to talk about how that game eventuated, Bryce, just a little bit. Mammoth finally, even though they don't change sides, change up the game plan.
And I actually genuinely really like it. Like they lost that game, but you know what I mean? I was saying like get Babip off the Jarvan and they go to something like the Nocturne. I thought like Swiffer was in pretty rough territory when he's picking the Syndra into a Nocturne LeBlanc, and like I wanted to see Mammoth like start playing through triple, start playing through those avenues. Unfortunately for them, like it didn't work out, but they did finally adapt, because adaptation is really what this series has come down to. I feel like a lot of preparation, a lot of like reads on the meta. This is a new patch with some significant changes, but I feel like they tried something at the end. Unfortunately, like Big Swing didn't land there, and that's it. That's a 3-1 victory.
But the stubbornnness to the bans remain. They were only willing to change one ban. Do you think that's something they go back and look at, or do you think that's just preparation? Didn't come through on the day. You know, Order played 3 different compositions and kind of beat us out in the end.
Like somewhat, you can look at it that way, and you can't. Like, I think you can be completely correct in being pretty critical, but also like you have to note we've only seen the tip of the iceberg.
Yep.
We have absolutely no idea what these guys were playing in scrims all week. Like, there could be like if this is a different. This is a different best of 5, and like Tally's playing 5 Hecarim games, and we're just like, why isn't that hitting the bench? Like, this could be why. Absolutely. You know what I mean? So like, there's a little bit of like, we're on the outside looking in. It looks like the bans were a problem. They never removed the Silas. They played into the same thing constantly. So I'm hesitant to be like super critical about that, because we just don't know. But it did look like some pretty stubborn drafting.
Okay, we are going to break down the rest of the game, but before we do that, we're going to throw it over to Pyro, who's with 2 members of the Victorious Order.
Thank you very much, Spawn. I am joined by the bottom lane, and it really does seem to be the Dream Team. And let's start with Dream, because man, this was your first Gauntlet ever.
Yeah.
And you managed to play out of your mind. You outplayed King, which is not an easy feat in a number of situations. How does it feel to get that win the first time you've made it here?
Feels insanely good. This was actually one of the weeks I didn't have coffee before I played, and no surprise, I wasn't very shaky. So that was, super good. I think I'm finally, like this game, I think I played up to my expectation. I actually think Calvin played, really well, and he was up farm like pretty much every game. So hats off to him. He definitely played well, and my team smurfed this game. So yeah, it's good.
It looked great, and I think I want to ask your duo partner as well how it felt to get this win, because you've been to the Gauntlet a couple of times with Avant, but now you get a win.
I've gotten a win, my first one yet. Thanks, guys.
There we go. So it
buddy.
feels good around, yeah.
It feels really good, especially beating Mammoth, because they've given us a bit of trouble throughout the year. I mean, most of the top of teams have, But no, in practice, they are probably our hardest opponents. I think they like as a duo together, they are extremely strong.
Very good.
And the fact that we were able to show, like on our day, that we are as strong. We can match them. We can play our game. They can play their game, and we're still competitive, and that's really good for me.
Yeah, and good respect to your opponents as well. But it did seem like whether it was no coffee or whether it was just best of 5s or maybe it's even the meta, you guys looked like you were on a completely different level as an entire team. What was it about coming into today that seemed to level you up so much compared to the regular split?
I think we had no expectations. We came in sort of to this Gauntlet week just thinking, like, we've all been putting in overtime like every day, just grinding, and like, if we get the wins, we get the wins. But that was a really good League of Legends today, and I'm very, very happy with that. And what about you?
I don't think anyone really expected us to win. Obviously, we scraped in just at the end.
I predicted you guys, by the way.
Thank you very much. But yeah, no one really expected us to win. I think they wanted us to win. Everyone wants the underdog to win, but yeah. No pressure. We just played ourselves.
So is that the same thing you're going to be feeling tomorrow? You're going up against Avant, your old team?
There's even less pressure because no one expected us to be there tomorrow. So
how are you going into
it gets easier and easier.
How are you going? You're just thinking that's fine.
We'll probably, just go out bowling or something. Just
bowling.
Not even going to think about the game.
I'm not going bowling. Let me tell you that much.
The less we think about it, the more we'll win.
So maybe the duo synergy needs a little bit of work, but at least on the Rift, you guys look great. Well, hey, congrats on the win. Best luck tomorrow versus
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's send it back to the couch to close this out.
I think a very insightful interview there.
Yes.
Maybe not in the League of Legends, but in terms of personality.
Yeah, absolutely. That was that's an interesting one. I like that stuff. We see a lot of people talking about League of Legends all the time. I like bowling. That's fine. I'm about that.
And one thing I will say, obviously, I have much more insight into Order than most other people that sit in this room. Jake is always the instigator of getting people out of their house.
Yes.
You know, let's go to gym, let's go bowling, let's go down, have breakfast
this,
together.
that, the other.
Yeah, let's just do something that is not League of Legends. And I think that this week in particular, when you can sink into the depth of what is a Gauntlet, was integral in his leadership ability, and I want to thank him. Let's go back to Mammoth, however, quickly, because Bryce, that's the end of their season, split one. They said they came together to win the OPL. Obviously not the end they wanted.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this was by far and away, like, they are a super team. They have OPL winners before. This is a disappointing end to their run, but I feel like there's some actually really positive points for this team. It was all about gelling together. I think, like, today, Order with a better team, and Mammoth looked like a bit incohesive. They're all very good individuals. It's about coming together, but you can highlight people like Tophoon, right? Like, we've seen nothing of this guy outside of the OCS.
He played well.
This split, like, in the beginning of this split, like, I was looking at him before Volkan really ramped it. Like, this guy's looking like rookie of the split. So they have some pretty high highs, I think, to look back to and a lot to take away. But, like, this is a team that, like, will bounce back, and I expect to see big things in the second split.
Yeah, and shout out to Tophoon, because in that last game, on the rise, did play a very good performance. You know, was able to push in very deep, was able to kind of contain Tally after a pretty serious camp. So certainly a guy with a bright future.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But on the other side of the coin, like, this is Order's moment, right? Like, the 4th, 5th place match, they've taken it out. The Order 4th place dream is still bloody alive.
Thank God.
It's still alive. We can do it. You know what I mean? But this was a very promising start.
Were expectations as low for Order coming into this best of 5 as Dream and Jake have just made out?
I actually think potentially yes.
Okay.
Given, like, the insight you get from players in interviews, everybody talks about, like, Mammoth being, like, a very formidable team. Even Chiefs and Bombers are saying, like, yeah, like, we're not necessarily afraid of, like, Order, AV, Gravitas, the other teams that can make it in. Mammoth were, like, somewhat more locked. And they're like, yeah, like, we are afraid of what Mammoth can do. So I think Order expectations coming in, like, a lot of people would have picked Mammoth's side of the coin, and they did a lot to look cohesive. They played some well-gelled League of Legends today. And I think it came down to, like, a lot of preparation. They put themselves in situations where they excel. We saw a lot of the Nami, we saw a lot of the Morgana, like the Zaya Rakan. This is where Order's bottom lane wants to be, and I've been somewhat harping on it all day. Like, they stepped up big time.
You're a support player. I know you don't understand the rest of the map.
Yeah. This is a young duo. Like, well, with with Dream, Jake's been around for a while, but, like, they stepped up massively, and, like, I think across the board, like, even, like, Tally had some very strong games. This is strong performances from everyone. Couple of roughies here and there, but overall, like, very collective.
Yeah, it certainly was, and it led to a 3-1 victory, which means tomorrow it is going to be Order taking on Avant Gaming. Avant Gaming had the head-to-head 3-0 during the split. Of course, the winner of that going to go up against the Chiefs Esports Club Saturday 4 p.m., followed by whoever wins that goes up against the Bombers. And I think Bombers are having a cheeky viewing party tomorrow for the Avant versus Order matchup. Head over to their Twitter page for a little bit more details. Bryce, want to get your first thoughts on Order versus Avant tomorrow. Can the boys in pink do it again, or is this Avant favored?
It's going to be so much, like, so weird compared to today. I think we see very different games.
Yep.
I think, like, Order will be the same team, but I think AV coming into it will look a lot different than Mammoth did. We've seen it the entirety of the split. AV are fairly weird. They play weird stuff. Urgot's back in the meta, other than, like, just top lane, so, like, Shock.
Yep.
He throws his name in the ring. There's going to be interesting League of Legends, and I think both teams can win it. I'm not sure who I would bet on right now. I feel like Order did actually look pretty good today. They played, like, smart League of Legends, but we're going to see much spicier games tomorrow.
All right, cool. That is going to be 4 p.m. tomorrow, but don't go anywhere, guys. After the stream, we are going to be hosting Saria Art, so stick around for that one. However, that is all the League of Legends actions we have today. On behalf of myself, Bryce, Pyro, Rusty, and the entire broadcast crew, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow.
See you later.